To talk about myself, I'm born and brought up in Mumbai, born up in a joint family. I was fortunate to being brought up in this kind of an environment where a lot of management lessons and leadership principles I could gather unconsciously right from my childhood. Did my graduation in commerce and then masters in labor studies from Mumbai University, uh, having an experience of almost 30 years. Started my career in 1994, where luckily for me, India was going through the transformation from a closed economy to a liberalized world. And we saw a lot of changes happening, especially in the people segment. We saw the change happening from labor management to personnel management to human resources management. And then in late 2000, when the Y2K thing happened, a lot of transformation happened from human resources management to knowledge management. And today we are talking about human capital management. In the span of 30 years, I got a chance to work in different industries, starting with aviation. And then in 1999, 2000, I moved into shipping industry. So for the last 22 years, I've been in the shipping industry, been in the human resources segment till 2020. So since last 1 year, I've moved from a human resources role to a business operations role. Joined Transworld Group in 2016 as the Chief People Officer, then got elevated to the role of Chief Operations Officer for the group. So it's a big change for me personally, and thanks to the management that they could see a prospect of a person from a HR background getting into the business role. So that's been a big change, and I'm enjoying this journey for the last 1 year. Talking about my personal passions, I'm very passionate about music, cricket, and since I've joined Transworld, of course, I was always involved in some social activities. But in our organization, we have developed something called higher purpose for the organization, like a vision, mission, and value. What drives all of us is the higher purpose, which is delivering prosperity to humanity. And this statement we try to embed into the DNA of every member who joins the Transworld Group, that while we are in the profit to make money, to make in the business to make profits, the higher purpose is to use that, of course, for your own benefit, but majorly use it to bring about a positive change in the society. So each one of us, we are a catalyst to bring about that positive change. And a segment of our life should be devoted towards this cause. And it's so also what we try is to create a ripple effect. It's not about going somewhere and donating something, but participating in various activities pertaining to people, to environment, to other social causes. And we also try to include the family members of our Transworld staff. So this is the the socio-economic change we are trying to bring about. And since we are a global network, we see that, whether it's saving, changing your bulb to an energy-saving bulb, or getting into eco-friendly ships, right from the basic micro level to a macro level, we are trying to bring about a positive change in the society. See, today, when we talk about tech, it is not something which is a matter of choice. So right from, if you take your own family, right from our grandmothers to a infant who is 2 years old, they are tech savvy. In fact, the children know more about tech than us. And every segment of life, tech is involved, whether it's of ordering milk or buying a mobile phone, you're using tech now. So it's not a matter of choice, it's a matter of compulsion. And in a way, the COVID actually really pushed the digitalization to the levels which the organizations were striving to reach. So from an HR perspective, HR has got a very good, it's a good opportunity for HR to be a catalyst for bringing about this tech revolution in the organization. So from a change management perspective, from the changing nature of work of people, I think HR needs to closely coordinate with the businesses in bringing about this change. As far as HR itself as a role is concerned, now the focus is more on results than on activity. So what happened during COVID was, earlier of course, there is a transformation that is happening. You had physical presence of people in the office, so leadership was more personal oriented. But this last 2 years of remote working also speeded up delegation in a very big way. You didn't have to physically monitor whether the person is sitting in the office, or if a salesperson is going out for a sales call, actually going out on sales call or going somewhere else. So now the focus is more on results. So you see, this is happening all across. It's not only in the business, but also if you see, parenting in a big way has changed. Today, children are more informed, and it's more of a dialogue than a top-down approach. So even in a business, you see that the top-down approach is gone. It's more of collaboration and business by consensus. So this is where HR has to change its approach. It acts as a bridge between the management and the people in bringing about this positive change. And HR first has to adapt itself to this kind of a thinking. As far as HR analytics are concerned, yes, because today most of the processes are digitalized. You have the benchmarks that are redefined, post the digital era. And this is where I think HR, from a business perspective, if they are able to quantify the productivity of each person, if they are able to, in a very objective way, bring about performance evaluation, if in a very digitalized way, able to convey to the people that, these are the KPIs that are expected from you, these are the job descriptions that are expected from you. And one big change I think HR can play a big part is in terms of the rewards and the reviews that happens. So from a more subjective perspective to a more objective perspective. So today it's all gaming that is happening. So we don't have to wait for a 6-month, half-yearly or an annual appraisal for an employee to know how he or she is performing. So if we can gamify the whole approach of working, what happens is there is a sense of competitiveness that happens. There is a mirror that is provided to the employee as to where the employee is heading. What are the benchmarks? What are the runs on the scoreboard? If an employee can see, then it's more of self-management that brings about. And that is a big change, which I think in the digital space, HR can bring about. And of course, communication is very, very important. Digital engagement is very, very important. So these are the kind of initiatives which is a great opportunity for HR. So I would rate it as, one is in terms of your performance benchmarking, your productivity benchmarking. Second thing is in terms of gamifying the performance management system. And third thing is in terms of digital communication with the people. Of course, there are these operational parameters in terms of your legislations, your routine formalities of joining, induction. Those things are, of course, we have gone a long way in terms of digitalizing those factors. To give you an example of COVID, which opened a lot of new ideas for us. So though we were physically not in proximity, it was all on online modes. We saw that the human touch increased, because we saw that right from the morning, with your reviews to your planning the day, and a lot of training programs. In fact, we encourage, if it's not something very confidential, if there is a training on leadership, if there is a training on communication, we used to tell the employees that get your spouses, get your children to attend it, so that everyone benefits. So as a Transworld family, we all got closer together due to digitalization that happened. Yes, it's not only with the employees, but also with the customers. You see that sometimes there is a danger that the customer says that I don't want to talk to an IVRS. I need a face to talk to when I'm transacting business with your organization. So the approach we should take is that technology is only to aid and bring about an efficiency and bring about an ease of transaction, while whether it's an employee or employee or an organization and a customer. What you correctly said is it cannot replace the human touch. So the human angle needs to be retained, and there is always a danger that the company may become too impersonal with the customers or the employees. So from a management perspective, from a business strategy perspective, human touch is very important. So this is what, in fact, to share an experience with you. Every 5 years, we re-question our vision and vision for the organization. So this time when we did it last year, post-COVID lockdown, there are three aspects which we embedded into it, because as an organization, we wanted to focus on that. One was sustainability, sustainable growth. Second thing was technology, bringing about automation, digitalization, tech in every aspect of business. And third, most important thing was the human touch. So we want to, these are the three pillars we feel, which are very, very important and which needs to be equally balanced. In fact, there are two aspects to reskilling, upskilling, and I would also say that what covers the entire gamut is change management. Okay, so we are in the cusp of a generational shift. As an organization in Transworld, we have people from the 70s to the millennials to the Gen Zs. So we have different segments of people who are working in the organization. So there is, what we try to bring about is a perfect amalgamation of the new approach with the experience without losing the essence of both. From a management perspective, there are two aspects to this. One is, we are talking about people who have been working in the organization for a long time. And when I talk about people, it's not only the staff, I'm also talking about the customers, the managers, the leaders, across all segments. So one is a change management in terms of their thinking, because definitely, there is a resistance, and resistance is not something which is psychological, but it's human nature. For example, when we move from keypad mobile phones to smartphones, that change took some time. We used to feel, okay, this is not going to work. But today you can't imagine operating from a keypad phone. So that change in mindset. So when we bring about these digital tools or digital initiatives, it calls for a lot of reskilling, unlearning. Learning is easier than unlearning. So people are so used. So to bring them out of that comfort zone, to take away that resistance and change. So this is one aspect of, I would say, change management and reskilling. The second aspect is, tomorrow's customers. Not only the employees who are going to join us, who will be the boomers and the Gen Zs, we are also talking about tomorrow's customers. They are all, the Uberized, the Zomatized people, who have never probably gone to a shop. They have all used digital tools. So if an organization, if I go to an IEM for recruitment, and if I'm not able to give them that kind of a platform, who's going to join the organization? So from an employee perspective, from a customer perspective, there is a change management initiative that is going on. But from an organization perspective also, the organization itself needs to unlearn, relearn, upskill and reskill. That is very, very important. So second thing is, what we always say that as a mantra, our chairman, Mr. Ramesh Ramakrishnan, always says that what has got you here is not going to get you there. So in the last 45 years, our organization has reached where we are today. And the essence of the organization has been a change. We have constantly strived to bring about new products. We have been a trendsetter in a way in the shipping and logistics industry, being the first coastal operator in India in 90s. In early 80s, we were the first feeder operators between India and Middle East. We are now getting into different sectors like agriculture. We have got into real estate. We are getting into the tech sector. But that apart, what we always say is that, right from the product to the way we work, unless we are reinventing ourselves, we are not going to be there compared to our competitors. So when we talk about reskilling, there is a learning, there is an unlearning that happens, there is a relearning that happens. And from a management perspective, it starts from there, from the top, where we try to change the approach, change the strategy. So for example, today, we are talking about flexi time. In fact, as an organization, we have made a rule that though we are back in office, we work only 4 days from the office. On Fridays, People have got a choice to work from home or wherever they want to. And we are not getting into monitoring as to, have you logged in at 8:30? Are you logging off at 6 o'clock? We give that freedom. We trust the people. And we always tell the people that the day you join the organization, we trust you. If the onus is on you to keep up that trust or not. So, and we always encourage people. So apart from the courses or the trainings that the companies provide, there are people have got so many opportunities and avenues today, where they can. There are a lot of digital courses that are available. It can be something to do with interior decoration. If that is your passion, go and do that course. Because you will see an indirect impact on the productivity of the person. Similarly, we have got something called a digital library, where it's a repository of various books, various journals from reputed Indian and international universities, and there are also links to various online courses we provide to the staff, so that they can upskill themselves. But again, I would say that you can provide a lot of things, but to a large extent it depends on the drive in an individual. It depends on the fire in the belly. There is a lot of effort that goes into it. I think a lot depends on the person's priorities, what he or she wants to really achieve and learn. So in fact, women empowerment is one of the key initiatives. One of the ESG pillars when we talk about bringing about a socio-economic change, we always try to encourage women folk especially to come into the mainstream. And the mistake a lot of us we do is that women are equal to men or superior. We should not get into women and one. We are talking about equal opportunity, being an equal opportunity employer. So the way you approach a woman. So when we go for a campus recruitment, we don't have to necessarily use different yardsticks for men and women, because women are better than men. I don't want to get into that demarcation of men and women. Women are strong. So the thing is, how to make them aware of their inherent strengths. And this again, is a social change that we need to bring about. Social change, especially in tier 2 and tier 3 cities in India, still you see that women are expected to get married once they complete graduation. So that is where the change has to start. Why is it that if a woman is 20, 21 years, you want her to get married, you don't tell this to a boy? Why can't this change has happened in cities to a great extent. I see the change happening in India also. Like earlier in my HR role, when I used to go for interviews, I saw a lot of girls coming, bright young girls coming out of colleges who are well educated. But the change, there is a long way still to go in many parts of our country. So this is a change the parents have to think that, women are not a commodity that needs to get married off and hived off once they turn 20, 21 years. Women have got their own ambitions and aspirations. And today, the biggest change, what we should bring about in the society is that why is it that a woman has to be dependent on the male of the house, the male member of the house? Economically, the women have to be economically independent. They don't need to, they get married, they go into a different family or whatever, but they don't have to be dependent on the husband or the in-laws for their economic sustenance. So in running a family, it's equal partnership of the woman. The woman has to contribute. And I see a lot of women coming forth in this economic independent space. That's a very, very heartening thing. So as an organization, we try to encourage women. In fact, in our organization, many of the C-suites role, we have consciously encouraged women, and they are quite successful in taking those roles. One more aspect is, when you go for campus recruitments, when you are especially talking about, say, overseas recruitments or cross-country recruitments, we see a big shift has happened. Earlier, I remember when I started my career, typically a girl would look at a job which is close to their place of residence, because the family or the parents are not comfortable, and maybe at those days the safety features were not there. But today I think a lot has improved. So today you see that a lot of more girls are ready to work in foreign countries, ready to work in in locations. So a lot of these kind of changes is what is required. So as an employer, as a business, when you have a requirement, say if you're talking about India, if we have a requirement in Mundra, Gujarat, definitely, we would like to take a girl, a management trainee, a female. But if you see that there is a resistance in that lady to relocate from the home state, that is when there is a backlog. So the change, as I mentioned, has to come from the family. There is a lot of orientation we still need to do to the parents, to the family, and make them aware that those boundaries of male and female have vanished now. Both are equal. When I sit for an interview, I don't use different yardsticks for a girl or a boy. As far as the interview goes, it is a skill set, it is the attitude, it is a passion that we see, not the gender when we recruit a person. At the same time, we know that there is a lot of ground, because due to the past circumstances, it's not only pertaining to India but all across the world. It's not India specific. I think today we are seeing a big change, that women are being more independent. They are financially more independent. They are professionally more proficient. They are educationally also catching up with the men folk. So this change will happen. It's not going to happen overnight. You will see that gradually the percentage shift is happening, and we bring about a parity between both the genders. Or why just male and female? We can also talk about transgenders. When we are talking about gender equality, it's not just men or women. It's also about transgenders. We need to bring them into the mainstream. And as far as the business goes, as far as your recruitment policies goes, we look at the skills, we look at the passion, we look at the attitude of the person. That is what should matter, nothing else. Over the last few years, we have seen a lot of change. In fact, personally, though I'm working out of Dubai now, I've spent almost over 25 years in India. And since 2014, when the Honorable Prime Minister of India opened up the communication channels, there is an app that is there where you can go and write. So I have been personally, I'm talking about my personal example. I've been personally writing in that portal to the Prime Minister to bring about changes in the way we transact business. And I'm sure that there are lakhs of people apart from me who have written to it. And, we are very glad to know that those changes are happening. We are happening to see. Say one small example I'll give you, how, small things can impact an unproductive task. Earlier in India, there was something called exemption for medical expenses. I think it was 15,000 rupees, and you had to produce bills for that. So, we could see that people are like, so when it comes February, March, people are lining up with medical shops trying to get bills or produce bills. I don't want to get into how this. So absolutely waste of time. And then, you need to, attach all those bills, give a reimbursement form, and then you have an auditor who comes and checks, and he says that there is a talcum powder in the bill, so this is not allowed, and then the employee gets fined. Absolute waste of time. So I had personally written to the Prime Minister that these kind of things. And when you're talking about a digital economy, while we are also encouraging, there is something called an LTA rule which says that you need to go to your native place. Now we are all born and brought up in. I'm born and brought up in Mumbai. My native place is Mumbai. Where do I go to claim this LTA? So now you see that the recent amendments in the tax that has happened, it's the right step towards that direction. So both for an employer and an employee, you simplify it. Secondly, we are talking about a globalized world. Today, India is in a very, very advantageous position because the whole world is talking about China plus one policy. So China as a factory of the world is not going to be there as we go forward. The disruptions, especially in the supply chain that has happened during the COVID, has opened up the eyes of the world, and people are looking at countries like India, Vietnam, Indonesia as substitutes. And India is perfectly poised in terms of its geographical location in the center of the world. Like our Prime Minister said, we are looking at India being the food basket of the world. We are looking at India being the medical capital of the world. And most importantly, the Skill India can transform India into a skill basket of the world. So the legislations have to be such drafted in India that we are able to attract talent into India, because it's not only being supplying talent, because when you want more industries, you want more FDIs to come in, you also need to create that governance mechanism, that ease of doing business where the companies are encouraged to come. We need to create you see a lot of things. I was in Bangalore, you see a lot of foreign expats, working out of there, but this has to be in every part of India. So if there is someone from Eastern Europe who wants to work in a factory in Rajasthan, we need to create that kind of ambience, that kind of a ecology for them to thrive. From an investment perspective, yes, there are a lot of steps taken in FDIs and other things, especially, from the labor perspective. India was earlier providing unskilled people, especially in the Gulf. Then we moved on to IT people, but now we are talking about skilled manpower. So India can also be a good source of skilled manpower across the world. And apart from that, there are certain micro level changes yet to happen in the labor legislations, as you said, simplifying the labor code. But certain small things like, even today, it takes time. Provident fund, when we have people joining, it takes years for a person to transfer his PF account from one office to other. So these are the kind of hindrances, the government should look into. And what the government should also do is that in the manufacturing sector, for example, I'm from the shipping and logistics industry. We have also, our organization has also signed a lot of MOUs with various with the various state governments and central governments. I think shipbuilding, for example, just to give you one example, that's a huge scope. Today, people are depending on the Chinese and the Korean yards to buy ships. Why can't we do it in India? We recently built big naval ship, I think Vikrant, that was launched last week. Why can't we do it in the commercial ship space? Why can't all the shipping companies look to India to buy ships? So this is just one of the examples I'm giving. So in terms of ease of doing business, one, we are talking about attracting foreign investment. Second thing is, at the same time, encourage the domestic players to augment their business, remove those barriers, incentivize. It's not only incentivizing the foreign companies to invest in India, the government should also incentivize the local industries to expand their business, local industries to showcase their product to the world. Today, why is it many of the times India is losing out to China is because we don't have the advantage of economies of scale, whether it is the place that you operate, the space, the labor reforms, the subsidies that the government gives. Subsidize a business, then subsidize a person. When you create employment, you're providing food and education to that family for the life, rather than putting some money into the pocket. And I think the government of India has taken a lot of positive steps in this direction, but a lot more can be done.